Ravi Kapoor stepped off the plane at Toronto Pearson International Airport in August 2019 with nothing but 2 suitcases, a student visa, and a head full of dreams. At 24, he wasn't just another international student. He was his family's biggest hope. Back in rural Punjab, his parents had made unimaginable sacrifices to send him abroad. They sold a portion of their ancestral farmland and took out loans, all with one goal: to give Ravi a chance at a better life. His success wasn't optional. It was a responsibility. He was expected to study hard, land a good job, and eventually send money home to pay off the debt and support the family. When Ravi arrived, he believed Canada would be a land of opportunity. But it didn't take long for the dream to start cracking. He enrolled at a private college in Brampton, a school known more for its high tuition than for the quality of its education. Classes were overcrowded, support was minimal, and tuition bills came faster than job offers. Ravi applied for every part-time job he could find, competing with hundreds of other students just like him. Some weeks he worked warehouse shifts overnight and went to class half asleep. Other weeks there was no work at all. His meals became sparse, his savings vanished, and late tuition notices started arriving one after another. By December, Ravi was in trouble. His student permit was at risk. He had fallen behind on payments, and if he didn't find a way to pay by spring, his visa would be revoked. He tried everything: odd jobs, borrowing from fellow students, even selling his laptop. But it wasn't enough. That's when someone at school told him about a solution: marriage. It sounded insane at first. Marrying a Canadian citizen just to stay in the country? It was illegal, unethical, and risky. But it was also becoming a well-known secret among international students. There were entire networks facilitating these arrangements. For a fee, students could enter into a fake marriage with a Canadian willing to play along. Photos, paperwork, even short interviews to fool immigration officials. In return, they'd get a path to permanent residency. After weeks of hesitation and rising panic, Ravi gave in. Through a contact at school, he was introduced to Emily Turner. Emily was 29, living in Mississauga, and had seen better days. Once full of ambition, she was now a single mother barely staying afloat. Her son, Ben Turner, just 5 years old, was the only constant in a life that had become chaotic. Emily was drowning in debt and unable to hold down a stable job, so when someone approached her with a quiet offer, $20,000, paid over time in exchange for a fake marriage, she didn't say no. Ravi and Emily met a few times at coffee shops. They staged a few photos, wrote up a convincing backstory, and submitted their paperwork. In the eyes of the Canadian immigration system, they were just another young couple in love. The two had a quick civil ceremony. No family, no friends, just legal signatures. Then they went back to their separate lives. Ravi returned to the grind: classes, side jobs, and now monthly payments to Emily. At first, the plan seemed to work. He felt like he had bought himself time. He was careful, quiet, and focused. Emily responded to texts, showed up when needed, and kept her side of the deal. For a few months, things ran smoothly. But by the 6th month, everything began to unravel. Emily stopped responding to messages. She missed a scheduled interview with immigration. When Ravi called, her phone went straight to voicemail. Her social media was inactive. He assumed she was ghosting him, maybe because he'd fallen behind on a payment. But something felt off. Ravi decided to visit the apartment Emily had listed on their paperwork. It was a small, run-down unit in Mississauga. The landlord said she hadn't seen Emily in over a week. Her rent was unpaid, her mailbox was overflowing, and her car was gone. Panic set in. Something was wrong, very wrong. Days later, the news confirmed it. Emily Turner was reported missing by her sister, Claire Turner. She hadn't contacted anyone in over 10 days, missed appointments, and, most terrifyingly, hadn't picked up her son from school. Her phone had been found in a trash bin behind a gas station, stripped of both the SIM card and the battery. Police were calling it suspicious and feared foul play. Ravi was terrified. His first instinct was to protect himself. He deleted messages, wiped his phone, and tried to remove any trace of their arrangement. But what he didn't know was that Emily had been keeping a journal. Claire found the handwritten notebook in a drawer while cleaning Emily's apartment. Inside were page after page of entries. Emily had detailed her fake marriage to Ravi, the payments, and most importantly, her growing fear. In one chilling entry, she described Ravi as erratic and wrote that she felt trapped in something dangerous. She had even written, "If anything happens to me, Ravi or that friend of his will be the reason." Claire gave the journal to the police, and just like that, Ravi was a suspect. He was brought in for questioning. He claimed their marriage was real, but admitted that they were having issues. When asked about the payments, he said they were loans to help her with rent. Investigators weren't buying it. There wasn't enough evidence to arrest him, yet. But Ravi could feel the walls closing in. He was being watched, followed, and investigated not just by police, but by immigration officials as well. Then came the news that shattered everything. A body was found near Lake Skugog, northeast of the city, wrapped in a blue tarp and weighed down with stones. The remains were badly decomposed, but dental records and a faded tattoo on the wrist confirmed what many already feared. It was Emily. The autopsy results were grim. Emily Turner had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, along with clear signs of manual suffocation. There were bruises along her neck, and the blow to her skull had caused severe internal bleeding. Her cause of death was ruled a homicide, and with that single announcement, the case shifted from a missing person report to a full-blown murder investigation. The public's response was immediate and emotionally charged. Media outlets seized on the story, plastering Emily's smiling face across national headlines. "Single mother found dead after immigration scam," one headline screamed. Another, more chilling, "Dream marriage ends in murder." The sensational nature of the story, an international student, a struggling Canadian woman, a sham marriage, and now a body found in a lake, made it irresistible to journalists and talk shows alike. Social media exploded with speculation, rage, and sorrow. People posted old photos of Emily, lit candles in front of her apartment building, and held vigils by the lake where her body had been found. She was no longer just a name in a police report. She had become a symbol of betrayal, exploitation, and tragedy. For investigators, the focus sharpened quickly. They'd been circling around Ravi Kapoor for weeks. His connection to Emily was no longer a mystery. It was public knowledge. The journal Emily left behind had named him. The payment records raised serious questions, and now, with her death confirmed, the pressure on police, and on Ravi, intensified tenfold. A warrant was swiftly granted to search Ravi's apartment. Officers arrived just after dawn, waking Ravi from a shallow, exhausted sleep. They tore through drawers, closets, and every corner of the modest basement suite he rented in Brampton. His phone and laptop were confiscated, along with notebooks, receipts, and immigration paperwork. Most of it was typical student clutter: assignments, job applications, empty ramen wrappers. But one item stood out like a red flag waving in the wind: a burner phone, cheap and poorly hidden in the back of a desk drawer, still powered off, its battery barely holding charge. The phone was registered under a fake name, but its contents told a different story. Dozens of messages were exchanged with someone labeled simply Quran. The texts were cautious, coded, but not cautious enough. Some were time-stamped around the days leading up to Emily's disappearance. Others were more revealing, references to the problem, talk of needing to make it go away, and a chilling question: is the lake spot ready? Investigators traced the number to Karan Mehta, a former student from Ravi's college who had dropped off the radar a year earlier. Karan's name had surfaced before, in whispers among international students who needed fake documents or advice on how to manipulate the system. He was something of a myth, an underground fixer who could get things done if you had the money and the desperation. But now, Karan Mehta wasn't a myth. He was a suspect. The police found him in a basement apartment in Etobicoke, living under a false identity and working under the table at a local auto shop. When he was arrested, he didn't resist. He was calm, almost eerily so. At first he played dumb. said he barely knew Ravi, denied knowing Emily altogether. But then came the digital evidence. Officers presented him with the texts, the voice memos, the metadata that traced his location on the night Emily disappeared. They brought out the images retrieved from Ravi's burner phone. One by one, the pieces were laid out like a puzzle, and as they fit together, Karan's demeanor shifted. He cracked, not with tears or panic, but with a calculated, quiet admission. According to Karan, Emily had recently started making threats. She wanted more money, and she had hinted at going to immigration. She was scared and frustrated, and she had the power to unravel everything. Karan claimed that Ravi came to him, terrified that everything was about to collapse. One night, Ravi called in a panic, saying something had gone wrong. Emily was unconscious, or worse. Karan said he drove out to meet him, found Emily already wrapped in a tarp, and helped Ravi dispose of the body in Lake Skugog. He insisted he never touched her, that he was just helping a friend. But that story fell apart quickly. Karan's fingerprints were on the tarp. DNA evidence placed him at the scene earlier than he claimed. And then there was the most damning discovery yet. A deleted folder on Karan's laptop recovered by digital forensic experts, labeled Plan B. The folder contained an unnerving level of detail. Written in cold, methodical language, it outlined various scenarios for dealing with complications in fake marriages. One section focused on how to stage a disappearance, remove phone batteries, destroy SIM cards, use remote lakes with little surveillance, and avoid toll roads or ATMs that might log your presence. It was like reading a playbook, a guide to making someone vanish, and it matched Emily's case to the letter. Investigators went deeper. They analyzed chat logs between Ravi and Karan, voice memos, deleted audio files, and metadata on photos. A pattern emerged, one where Karan had slowly manipulated Ravi, feeding his fears, heightening his sense of danger. In weeks leading up to the murder, Karan repeatedly hinted that Emily was a liability, that she might betray them both, that if she went to immigration, Ravi wouldn't just lose his visa, he'd face prison. One voice memo was particularly chilling. Karan said, "You think this ends with her just walking away? You think she'll just disappear quietly? You have no idea what she's capable of. You want to protect yourself. You have to take control before she does." It became clear to investigators that Karan had planted the idea, possibly even orchestrated the entire event. But his manipulation didn't stop with psychological control. He had another plan, one that made everything far more sinister. Police discovered that Karan had used Ravi's personal documents, bank statements, transcripts, identification photos, to file his own application for permanent residency. He had already begun creating a false identity under Ravi's name. Once the murder was complete and Ravi was arrested or deported, Karan would simply vanish into a new life. Emily's murder wasn't an accident. It was a necessary step in a much larger scheme. By spring 2022, when the trial began, the story had reached both Parliament and the streets of India. News outlets in both countries followed every development. The courtroom was packed daily with journalists, legal analysts, and members of the public. On one bench sat Ravi Kapoor, a pale shadow of the ambitious student who arrived in Canada just 2 years earlier. On the other sat Karan Mehta, the man who had whispered a nightmare into existence. The prosecution built a devastating case. They revealed the contents of Plan B. They played audio of Karan's instructions to Ravi. They presented evidence of Karan's fraudulent residency application. The picture they painted was chilling. Karan was a predator who preyed on fear, exploiting both Ravi and Emily for personal gain. Emily's sister Claire sat in the front row every day. When she took the stand, the room went silent. She read from Emily's journal, an entry written just 3 days before her death. "I feel like I'm in a corner I can't get out of. Ravi is scared. His friend is worse. I don't know what to do. If something happens to me, tell my son I didn't give up. Tell him I tried to protect him." The courtroom wept. Claire's voice trembled as she read Emily's last words, words written in fear, in isolation, and in the final days of her life. Ravi's defense team portrayed him not as a killer, but as a young man out of his depth, trapped, manipulated, and too afraid to act. They didn't deny he had made terrible choices. He had lied. He had helped move a body. But they argued that he never planned or carried out the murder. Karan, in contrast, sat with little expression throughout the trial. His defense claimed the Plan B file was nothing more than a contingency plan. Dark, yes, but hypothetical. They argued that no one had seen him commit the murder and that Ravi had more motive. But the jury didn't buy it. After 4 weeks of testimony and 3 days of deliberation, the verdicts came in. Karan Mehta was found guilty of first-degree murder, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit immigration fraud. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Ravi Kapoor was found guilty of accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to 15 years, with parole eligibility after 8. As the courtroom emptied, there was no celebration, just quiet, grief. The sound of a broken dream echoing across borders. Emily Turner's young son will grow up without his mother. Claire will raise him with love and courage, but also with the weight of explaining a tragedy no child should have to understand. Ravi's family in India sits across oceans, shattered by a future that ended in handcuffs. And Karan Mehta will spend the rest of his life behind bars, having destroyed more than just one life. He destroyed a fragile hope, and in doing so, exposed a chilling truth. When a dream becomes a transaction, it can quickly turn into a nightmare. And some lies are paid for in blood. Viewers, what really makes a person take that one irreversible step? Not just a bad choice, but a choice that unravels a life, shatters families, and ends with someone buried in the ground. We all read the headlines. Single mother killed in immigration scam. Student arrested in fake marriage murder plot. It's easy to see the crime. It's even easier to judge it. But what about the humanity behind it? What about the thousands of quiet decisions, pressures, fears, and silent screams that come long before someone picks up a phone or wraps a body in a tarp? We have to ask, why does this happen? Why did Ravi Kapoor, a young man who arrived in Canada full of ambition, get pulled so far into a lie that it turned deadly? Was it fear? Was it the unbearable weight of letting down his family back home, the ones who gave everything so he could chase a dream? Or was it the cold whisper of someone like Karan Mehta slowly convincing him that lies are just a smarter version of survival? Imagine being 24, alone in a foreign country. Your visa is running out. Your tuition is behind. Your job prospects are limited. You've told your parents you're doing well, but you're not. You're barely holding it together. And then someone offers you a lifeline, a fake marriage, a few papers, some stability. Just sign. Just pretend. No one gets hurt. But someone always gets hurt. Now think about Emily Turner, a single mom doing her best in a system that doesn't make it easy. Minimum wage, childcare costs, rent that climbs faster than paychecks. Do we really understand what it's like to live in that kind of constant anxiety? To say yes to something you don't believe in, not because you're greedy, but because you're out of options. We call it a scam, but to her, maybe it felt like a chance, a break. Maybe she thought she could keep it under control, until it wasn't. Until someone knocked on her door in the middle of the night. And then there's Karan, the fixer, the schemer, the man who saw not people but opportunities. What turns a person into that? Is it pure greed, or is it learned? Learned from watching others climb by exploiting the weak. Learned from a system that rewards manipulation and punishes honesty. Karan didn't just help Ravi. He orchestrated the whole thing. He created Plan B. He had the lake picked out, the camera blind spots mapped, the burner phones bought. This wasn't panic. It was planning. Cold, methodical, terrifying planning. And for what? A new identity? A better life built on someone else's name? What kind of world allows someone like that to thrive for so long, unnoticed, unchecked? But maybe the hardest question of all is this. Could it have been stopped? Could Emily have been saved? Could Ravi have been helped before he made that first lie? Could Quran have been exposed before things went too far? And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because these aren't isolated cases. This story isn't just a one-time tragedy. It's a symptom of something deeper, something broken, something silent. How many international students are living under the radar right now, terrified of getting deported, being exploited, or simply being forgotten? How many single parents are saying yes to things they don't believe in because they feel trapped by a system that doesn't see them? How many fixers are out there promising solutions but leaving nothing but destruction in their wake? We don't like to talk about these questions. They make us feel powerless. But ignoring them won't make them go away. Because every time a story like this breaks, we hear the same thing. How could this happen? But maybe the better question is, why do we keep pretending we don't already know? We know what desperation does. We know how pressure makes people choose silence over safety. We know what it's like to feel invisible in a country that promises opportunity but gives none of the tools to claim it. So ask yourself, if you were Ravi and you saw everything slipping away, what would you have done? If you were Emily and you needed to keep a roof over your child's head, what would you have said yes to? And if you were someone like Karen, smart, cunning, invisible to the law, would you have used your skills to help or to hurt? It's easy to say, I'd never do that. But survival makes monsters out of men, and sometimes victims out of everyone else. So what can we do? We can start by refusing to look away. We can talk about how broken immigration systems push people into dangerous corners, about how poverty, isolation, and unchecked manipulation create perfect storms. We can push for policies that protect the vulnerable, not punish them. And we can check in with the people around us, with the students in our communities, with the mothers next door, with the voices no one listens to until it's too late. And if this story made you feel something, anger, sadness, fear, or even just curiosity, then let's not end it here. Let's keep the conversation going. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think went wrong here? Could this happen where you live? Have you seen anything like this in your own circles? If this story hit hard, like the video, not just for the algorithm, but to show that stories like this matter, share it, send it to someone who needs to understand how real these situations are. A friend, a classmate, someone who's never thought about what it means to fight for a future in silence. And if you want to see more stories like this, real cases, real people, real consequences, hit that subscribe button. We're not here for clickbait. We're here to tell the hard truths and ask the questions no one else will. Because sometimes the scariest part of a story is realizing how easily it could have been your story. Until next time, stay aware, stay human. And remember, the truth is never as simple as it looks.